welcome to another episode of The Movie Show. My name is Adam.
My name's Nick. Welcome back. We are on our never-ending quest to find hidden gem movies at the bottom of the Netflix or Amazon Prime stream.
We are indeed. Welcome back to the show. How are you, Nick?
I'm very good.
Yeah?
And do you know what?
What?
I'm really looking forward to talking about this film.
Me too.
Because I think for the first time this season, I have not got a grip on what you will make of this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That is interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I know what you're going to think of it, but I don't know. But I can understand why you don't know what I'm going to think of it.
I feel
I
that,
get that.
There is, before we really get into it, I feel that there is a lot more comedy in here than I was expecting.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how some of that may have landed with you.
Okay, that is interesting.
That will be my tease.
Because this week we are watching a movie that isn't called Origin Unknown.
No, definitely not.
Because we've watched that one.
And no one thought it was at any point this week.
Nick did. It's called Unknown Origins, and it was released in 2020. It's a 15. It runs for 1 hour and 36 minutes. Currently rated at 6.1 on IMDb, and is on Netflix.
It's quite high, isn't it?
6.1. Highest we've done in a while.
Yeah.
Definitely the highest of this season.
Yeah, 100%.
Thoughts?
I wasn't expecting it to be rated so high.
Okay. Fair. This movie stars a guy called Javier Rey. He plays David Valentin. It also stars Veronica Echegui. She plays Norma. And it also stars Brays F.A. He plays Jorge. Written by David Galan Galindo and Fernando Navarro, and directed by David Galan Galindo. None of these people have been on our show before, although we have done quite a few Spanish movies before. This is a Spanish movie.
It is.
We do like a Spanish movie on this show.
There's a lot of them on Netflix.
There is a lot
of Spanish language movies on Netflix.
Spanish?
And we have been fortunate enough. Some of our biggest highlights, shiniest gems, if you will.
Spanish cinema is
been Spanish movies.
Good.
Yeah.
There are good Spanish films.
I think possibly both your and my favourite movies on this show that we've done are Spanish.
What's yours?
I always think if someone says, what's your favourite movie you've done on the show? One of the first ones that pops into my mind is always Elementary.
Yeah,
Blacksmith
true.
and the Devil.
To be fair, that'd be up there for me as well.
And I think you tend to go with
Mirage.
Both Spanish movies.
They are indeed.
Well, technically Elementary is a Catalan movie.
Yeah, it's Basque.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's the same animal. Do you, Nick, have a one-word review of Unknown Origins?
How do we get Marvel not to sue us?
Okay, yeah, good shout. How did that not happen?
I don't know.
You would think it had. Where does this movie start, Nick?
A voiceover.
Yes.
Describing... Well, we hear panic.
Yes, there's like lots of different movie company title cards coming. Loads come up.
And then...
But the movie's already started underneath them all.
Yes, and it's what we quickly come to realise, a team of policemen.
Yes.
Coming up with a strategy to get into a burning building.
There's a building on fire. There's only policemen there. There's no fire brigade as of yet.
Not yet.
And the policemen are deciding what they should do to evacuate this building.
And you also can hear screams and fire noises.
So, yeah, the police start evacuating this building.
And then we cut to said building on fire.
We do, indeed. We meet our policeman. He's all costumed up. And he goes into one of these burning apartments, finds an old lady on the floor and rescues her, drags her outside. Yeah. But as she is leaving, she says, "Help my husband, he's still in there."
Yeah.
So this hero policeman that we've met...
He says on the radio, "I'm going back in."
His boss is like adamant he's not going back in.
He gets the reply on the radio, "Leave it, wait for the firemen."
Yes. He does not do this.
No.
And he then gets engulfed in flames. We hear noises.
We hear screams.
And we're pretty sure that's the end of that guy. And then the film goes into a credit sequence, a prolonged credit sequence.
I didn't like the credits. It was unnecessary.
It went on for ages.
And it was just there was no ingenuity here whatsoever. It was, you just saw weapons, pills. I've put industrial stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it you will later see are bits of crime scenes.
Yes.
But it was very like, oh, come on, guys. It's very like Saw 7 straight away, isn't it?
The dead film.
Let's do something different with this credit scene.
So we cut out of the credit scene. It goes on for ages as well. It's like 5 minutes long. We cut out of the credit scene and we've got a camera panning around somebody's office.
Oh, we see a news clipping
And
straight away.
There's like photographs of a cop and some news clippings. And one of the news clippings says, policeman dies saving lives.
Three lives.
3 lives in an apartment fire.
Yeah. So
And-
relating straight to our prologue that
Yes.
we saw.
And this is Cosme's office. He is the first character we meet in this film, I guess. And we find out quite quickly that he lives with his grown-up son, who is called Jorge, and he goes to Jorge's room to try and wake him up. Yeah?
Yeah.
But then, as he's doing that, he gets a call on his police. He's a policeman too.
Yeah, he's an older gentleman.
He's an older gentleman, but he's still a policeman. And he gets a call to go out on his radio that he needs to leave and get out there now. So he does. He leaves Jorge in bed, and he goes out. So we see then Jorge. Was his name Jorge? Am I saying this right?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem right. He gets out of bed. He has a wash. We see him in his underpants. And he goes to
He
open
picks toast out of the bin.
He does pick toast out of the bin and eats it. And he goes to open his comic book store. This
Yeah.
guy runs a comic book
He does.
store. So, successful businessman. He gets a delivery when he gets there by a man who looks remarkably like Stan Lee. Did you not notice?
Yeah,
He
it's
really did. It was like a Stan Lee cameo, but not a Stan Lee cameo. And in this box is a taser
Yes.
that he's ordered from China. So he's very happy with his new taser. Cut back to his dad, Cosme. He is meeting his new partner. This is David Valentine.
And this is the exact setup from 7.
Yes.
Cosme is about to retire.
Yeah.
And he is meeting David
His
Valentine,
replacement.
who, is going to take his job, basically. It will replace him upon his retirement.
Yes.
And they go to a call together.
They do. They get called to an apartment that has a odd smell coming from it.
Yeah.
That's how it's described. And they go into this apartment, and inside they find lots of bodybuilding stuff. There's like
Steroids,
needles,
creatine,
all
protein
sorts.
powders,
Loads of
all
things
this sort
like
of
that.
stuff. Again, it's very industrial. It's all on this sort of like
Yeah.
steel racking, isn't it?
And then they find a dead body.
Yeah.
This was interesting, I guess.
Yeah, and let's give a shout out because this is the first one, but it's throughout this movie. The practical effects,
I guess.
makeup,
Look great.
really good.
Yeah.
Because this person is dead
Yeah.
on a weight bench, his neck crushed by the dumbbell,
Yeah.
his wrists snapped
Yeah.
back.
His body engorged.
Yes.
And you can see
And
literally
grey.
this guy's neck is like compressed to
Yeah.
nothing.
And the bone sticking out of his wrist.
Yeah. And he's grey.
And his skin's all mottled
Completely
and grey.
grey. The new cop can't really handle this, starts throwing up everywhere.
He does.
So they have a look around and then they go to a laundrette
They do.
because this guy needs to clean his clothes because
Because
he's threw up on it.
Valentine's got to clean his suit.
Yes. They have a bit of a bonding session.
Yeah,
at this
as they're
laundrette,
waiting
don't they?
for
As they're waiting.
the washing to complete. And Cosme's bought them both some breakfast, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Settle the guy's stomach.
After that, they do some investigation.
Well, I was just going to say, in that conversation, so we learned that
sorry.
Cosme's he was a widow,
Yeah.
young,
Yeah.
early,
Died-
and he
his
had
wife
to
died
brought
young.
up his 2 sons
Yes.
on his own.
And one of his sons has died.
Yes,
And this is the guy from the beginning of the film.
correct.
The policeman who died in the fire.
And Valentine shares that his parents were murdered
Yep.
when he was a child.
Yes.
And then Cosme says, "Oh, by the way, whilst you were spewing your guts up in the apartment,
Yeah.
I found a clue,
Yes.
and it is a prescription
Yep.
for Balbino Blasquez,
Great name.
and he's run the name through the police records, however you do it, and that is an individual that has been missing for 12 months.
Yeah, he's been missing for a long time. He's a physics professor.
Yeah. However,
And-
they go to his unused office
Yeah, they do. They look around his office.
at the university.
They find out that sort of thing. They think it might be a homicide,
Yeah.
even though it didn't look like one from the crime scene. That's what they're thinking. So
They find a picture of him
They
on
do,
his
yeah.
desk. He's like quite a well-renowned physicist, as you say.
not a young man.
And Valentine says, "Oh, the guy was a runt.
Yeah, skinny, older gentleman. I
Looks
guess.
totally different to that guy we found on the weight
the
bench."
roided up monster
Yeah.
they found on the weight bench. So they go to his autopsy. They go to meet the coroner.
And everyone in the room already knows that Valentine spewed up everywhere.
Yeah, so there's some jokes about that going on. And the coroner, I didn't catch the guy's name. What was his name?
I just put doctor.
I did as well. He says, look, this guy was on a lot of steroids. There was his whole system's full of different types of drugs. But he says what has happened is that he was doing weights obsessively, and his wrists blew out.
So did you watch the dub?
I did watch the dub.
So I did the Spanish.
Okay, with the subtitles.
Yeah.
So I had the dub and the subtitles on.
Yeah.
And the subtitles and the dub are way off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like a lot more than I've ever noticed before. Like a long way out. So, to the point where there's a name later on that's different.
Oh, okay.
Quite a significant name as well.
So in my version, the doctor says this guy basically didn't stop exercising.
Yeah.
And he was like basically exercising all day, every day. He built so much muscle so fast, his skin couldn't keep
stretch.
up.
Yeah.
Which is why it looked weird and mottled and a strange colour. Yeah.
And he was doing it so much that eventually his wrists blew out, snapped in half, and he dropped the weight bar on his neck.
Yeah.
And that's what's killed him. Then something really strange happens. Their boss comes in.
Yes.
This is Norma, the first time we meet Norma.
I loved Norma.
She's the head of homicide in Madrid, which is where this film's set. And she's young. She's the youngest homicide chief in history.
Yes.
In the country. And she's also a cosplayer.
Yeah.
So she comes in dressed up in anime costume.
On her day off.
Into this.
She's angry.
She's very angry. She shouts at Cosme that he shouldn't even be here. He should be retired by now.
He's like, I don't want you on this case. You need to come back here in the morning to pick your stuff
Collect
up.
your stuff.
You are done.
You are done. Get out. I don't want to see you here anymore. Valentin can handle this. So yeah, she was.
She's like, I don't want to be interrupted again on my day off.
Yeah, she was a character. This one.
And Cosme just says to Valentin, because he's like gobsmacked, and Cosme says, "Well, she's a cosplayer.
She's
That's
into
her
cosplay.
hobby."
It's what she does. She's only young. I think she was 29 or something. Cosme then goes home. He has dinner with Jorge. This is where we find out that the other son is the dead cop.
Yeah.
Whilst they're having their dinner, David gets called to another crime scene. I think it was in like a museum.
Yeah.
It felt like it was like a movie museum.
It was. I didn't know if it was or if it was a rich guy's
collection, private
mansion.
collection.
Yeah, but it was a collection of. Whether it was a museum or a house, it was an exhibit.
Yes.
Of weaponry.
And this victim is lying on a stretcher in an iron suit of armor.
Yeah.
Hooked up to some drips and things like that. But he's also dead.
Because his heart has been taken out.
Yes. Somebody's removed the guy's heart.
And they've kind of peeled back the iron suit of armor.
Yeah.
And took his heart out.
Yes.
And the heart is there at the scene, but it's on ice in a cool box.
Very strange. Cut back to Cosme's house. He's going through the crime scene photos of the first crime scene.
Yeah.
And Jorge walks past and he's like, "Oh, that looks really familiar. And I recognise this. That guy looks like the Hulk."
Yeah.
And Cosme's like, "Oh, the Hulk's green."
Yeah.
And Jorge's like, "No, well, in his origin story, he wasn't. He was He was grey.
Originally, the Hulk was grey.
He was a roided up monster." And this is where we find out that there's also a clipping from a magazine has been found at the crime scene.
Yeah, because Jorge says to Cosme, "Oh yeah, the Hulk's first appearance was
whatever it was,
whatever comics
and
number."
that matches up with this clipping they found at the crime scene.
The next morning, Cosme goes to the office. He's signing his retirement paperwork with Norma.
With Norma. There's a party going on upstairs for him, but he doesn't want to attend.
She says, you don't have to be a good detective to know that there's a surprise party planned for you upstairs.
Yes, and he doesn't want to go to that.
And he notices like the dream board, the mood board.
The mood board behind it.
For the heart suit of armor case.
Yes.
And he just says, "Well, can I have a look at that?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, you're going to anyway."
Yeah, so he does. And he notices that there's a second clipping on the board that's also from a magazine, what they think at this time. So he goes back to the first crime scene and he finds this clipping, doesn't he?
It's Action Comics #1 or whatever it is.
Whatever it was. That's Superman.
Yeah.
He calls Jorge, and Jorge confirms that this clipping he's found is from the Hulk's first ever appearance, his origin story. Yeah. And Cosme then goes back to the office, gets David and Norma into the office, and he explains to them, look, your crime is a mirror of the origin of the Hulk.
Yeah.
Somebody's recreating superhero origin stories. And the second one is the origin story of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because this man's in an iron suit and he's had his heart taken out.
Yeah.
So what they need is an expert. They need a superhero expert to come in and consult on this case.
So they have got an external advisor in to partner Valentin.
Yeah.
And he's happy because he thinks he's getting Cosme to work with him.
Yeah, because that's his
no.
hero. It's Jorge. Jorge is going to become an honorary cop to investigate these crimes because he knows the origin stories and the stories of all superheroes. And it seems like we have a serial killer who is imitating the origin stories of superheroes.
We also learn that the second victim, the guy in the iron suit, actually owned a weapons factory.
Yes, he was an arms dealer.
And his hobby was collecting famous...
movie weapons.
Yeah. Swords, axes, guns, you name it.
And Jorge explains, Tony Stark was a weapons dealer. And this guy you've got here is a weapons dealer.
So they go, Jorge and Valentin go back to the scene.
Yep.
And Valentin just says, just have a look.
Have a look around, see if there's anything out of place.
Have a look around.
See if he's got anything that doesn't feel like it fits.
Jorge finds the Lord of the Rings display case.
They've got a display case of all the weapons from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But in there is an erroneous axe.
It's just a fire axe.
Yeah, it's just that it shouldn't be there. It's out of place, and Jorge spots. And nobody else would have. It looked like it should be there, but obviously it shouldn't. So they take some fingerprints off it and get those sent off to the lab to be investigated.
And Valentin's sort of first, I guess, the first time it occurs to him that actually Jorge might be useful. They're
bonding. So David Valentin goes to Jorge's store because he wants to learn some more about these comic books.
He does, and I noticed at the comic book store, he stops and he looks at like a display of, and it's got there's a big picture of Alan Moore, the guy who wrote Watchmen and hundreds of the comic books, highly regarded. And it reminded me, I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the podcast before,
No, I don't think you have.
but I know you know, where I went to college was in Northampton, where Alan Moore famously never wanted to leave. We used to see him all the time.
Yeah, I remember you saying
walking around town with his staff and his wizard's hat, and you say hello to him, and
just an eccentric character.
Yeah, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
He did loads, didn't he?
Yeah. So yeah, I've said hi to him numerous times.
No, that's
but
really
in
cool.
comics, he's like
the god.
Yeah,
the Don. More like Stan Lee level.
Yeah. V for Vendetta. That was one of his.
Yeah, it was. That's a great.
Massive,
I love that film.
Big guy as well.
Really?
We used to see him all the time. Yeah.
He's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
No, it's been a long time since you were at college.
Yeah, 100%.
Jorge gives David a bag full of comic books, and he says, "I've taken out all the mythical beings. I've taken out all the gods. I've taken out all that sort of thing. These are all human superhero origin stories. No aliens. These are, and it's a big bulk of comics. There's a lot of superheroes." He says, "Do some research. See what you want to do."
And Valentin sort of looks over Jorge's shoulder, and he's like, That's Norma.
What's going on back there?
What's she doing there?
There's like a secret room at the back.
And he's like, oh yeah, like Monday, Tuesday, it's Warhammer in there. Whatever day it is today, it's cosplay.
Yeah, she teaches cosplay and she helps people create their costumes.
Yeah.
So considering David hasn't worked for this woman for very long, he doesn't seem to respect her very much. No. He goes in there and he's like abusing her for her hobbies.
I didn't like this scene because Valentin is... It's too... easy the way it's written. It's just like, oh, all nerds are idiots.
Yeah, he doesn't like superheroes. He doesn't like nerds.
Yeah, he thinks
we do find out why later on.
Yeah,
but he thinks it's all for kids. He thinks it's all kids, and he's really abusive to his boss.
Yeah, he storms into this room like the big man. Like,
you're a fucking idiot.
You're a bunch of losers.
Yeah.
Cosplaying and
the nerds stand up to him. The nerds are like,
"This is our house.
You can't come in here talking to us like that. We're all respectable members of society.
Yeah.
One says I'm a dentist. The other one's like I'm a pharmacist. One's a billionaire businessman.
Yeah, they're like, who are you? The business guy's like, I earn what you earn in a year in a morning.
In a morning. And it's not in this scene, but later on, Jorge's like, you may have been the big jock at school, but you're the freak in this room. Yeah. You're the one who's out of place here.
And Norma has a go.
I really like that.
Yeah, Norma has a go at him as well. She says, I'm wearing a costume for fun. This is my hobby. You wear a costume for your job. Yeah. You've got this cheap suit on to try and make yourself look important.
Yeah, she probably digs him out.
And she says, the difference between you and me, although we both wear costumes, yours sucks shit.
She does say that.
Which I really like.
And because he's offended everybody in this store now, Jorge charges him for the comic books, and it's like $150 euros or something, which I thought was quite a funny little thing. But as this is all going on, they have a hit on the fingerprints, and they now have a suspect. It's a fireman who is well into arson. That's pretty much how they describe it.
It was a guy who was responsible for a fire that killed people years ago, but he
is a fireman.
He only served a small amount of time for reasons that they didn't really go into. Yeah.
But he was a fireman as well by trade. So Val, I'm calling him Val now because that's what Jorge calls him all the way through. Val and Jorge go to check it out. They go to see if they can find this guy's where this guy lives and see if they can find him. This is where we find out that Val absolutely hates superheroes, and they have this whole conversation about how they're for kids, and they're bonding, but at the same time they're not agreeing.
Jorge says, my brother was a superhero.
Yeah, he was a cop who died saving people. Yeah. He's my superhero. When they get there, they're stopped by a crime scene. Basically, they get to this apartment, and
smoke is billowing out of the window.
Smoke coming out of a window. And it's been happening for a few hours now, but all the cops are outside waiting for a search warrant to go in. But then Norma turns up and she just blasts the door open and bursts in.
She's basically like, "Fuck the warrant. We're going
I'm the chief.
She was great. I loved her character.
She was great. When they get in, considering there's smoke billowing out the window, it's absolutely freezing inside this apartment. Yeah. It's like everybody's like, you can see how cold it is. Everything's frosted up inside. And they can hear screams. There's a man screaming from in the apartment somewhere. And when they get into this particular room, there's a dude who's on fire inside a glass cabinet.
Yeah, wearing a gimp suit.
And he's just screaming. He's alive, but he's screaming. Something's obviously keeping him alive. So Norma breaks it open with a fire extinguisher, and they put the fire out. And Jorge says, this is the Human Torch's origin story. This is how the Human Torch came to be. Not the one that we know and love in the Fantastic Four. The original Human Torch was done. He was a cyborg or a robot or something that was kept alive whilst being on fire. And then Jorge just passes out for some bizarre reason.
Because this guy's like been melted into this suit.
Yeah, this guy's been...
And because as Norma extinguishes him, he falls forward and... all this gloop that's being fed into the back of his suit, like, splashes all over Jorge and Val.
So this guy's being kept alive by the suit, but also he's been on fire for a considerable amount of time. And it is their guy that they're looking for, this fireman, the arson suspect. Cut back to the coroner, the mortician, whatever you want to call him.
He says basically this. Yeah, they peel this.
Yeah, his skin and his suit have kind of merged into one.
Yeah,
he has become the suit basically.
And again, the makeup was amazing.
It really was. The practical effects in this movie are really good.
And the coroner says, "Well, originally I think this suit was keeping him cool.
Yeah,
but something's malfunctioned, and basically he's been boiling alive for 3 days. Simmering.
Jesus,
it would have been a horrible death.
That is gruesome to think about. I don't even want to think about it. Norma and Val then have a bit of a conversation.
Val kind of storms out. He's like, "Look, I need Cosme back on this case. Help me out.
I need an experienced cop here.
Yeah, this is another level."
Yeah. And Norma says, "Look, you can't have him.
He's gone.
He's gone. He's retired. He's got cancer.
Yeah.
He's dying. and nobody knows. I've only found out because of his medical that he's had to do recently.
Yeah. He won't take any treatment.
He completely refuses treatment. He refuses to tell Jorge. And I've forced him into retirement just so he can have some time alone because this guy's going to die, basically.
And Val says, I've known cops like Cosmo before. They don't retire.
Yeah.
He will die on the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Val then goes to dinner with them. He goes to Cosmo's house for dinner with him and Jorge.
Jorge's sitting there like a nerd doing Warhammer, painting his little toys.
What sort of uber nerd do you have to be to paint Warhammer figures?
His stinky bedroom.
Yeah, all alone. He lives alone. Well, he doesn't live alone, but he should. He's got music on. He doesn't hear David come into his room. David's like looking around his room, looking at all his toys and things like that. He finds his secret cabinet that you shouldn't look inside.
He's got all the anime porn
in his secret cabinet. Throws a pencil at him and he still doesn't turn around, doesn't notice. And then he does notice and Jorge notices him in the porn cupboard. So he's like, we'll never go in that cupboard again. It's got Gandalf on the door, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Thou shalt not pass. So then they sit down and have dinner. Val then tells his, I guess, origin story.
I thought this was great.
It was great.
I was already enjoying this movie. As he told this story, I was like, no, fuck this, I'm in.
I think I was in.
Let's sell the gimmick now.
So Val, when he was younger, he went to the theatre with his mother and father.
Yeah.
And on their way home, his dad was mugged by a junkie. And you might recognise this story, was shot and murdered.
Yeah.
And then his mother was also shot because she wouldn't stop screaming about what had happened. And he was left there alone with his two parents' dead bodies by the back of this theatre.
And Jorge is just like sitting there open mouthed.
He's literally agog.
And Cosmo's like, oh yeah, that's really terrible. And Val's just telling this story that obviously he's told before. And Jorge's just like, Jorge's like, are you listening to yourself?
Yeah, come on. He's like,
you're Batman.
He's like, we have to go, and we have to go now.
This is all linked.
This must be linked. It can't not be linked. And Cosmo's like, oh shit, yeah, you two need to go.
Jorge's like, have you ever looked into it?
Yeah, have you ever looked through your files? And he's like, I can't.
Val's like, no, it's why would I?
He's not allowed to look at his personal files.
And Jorge's like, right, we're going to the police.
So they go to the police archives with Norma, who gets them in.
Yeah,
she shouldn't, but she has. She broke some rules. And yeah, it's basically Batman's origin story. Yeah. David is Batman. So they determine that it's got to be the same guy.
They go through the file. They find the clipping. It's ripped out. It's Detective Comics number 33.
Yeah. One of the most valuable comic books of all time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's in the crime box, evidence box.
Yeah.
So it's got to be the same guy. They fear what's happening now has got to be connected to this all these years later.
So the three of them sit down and they have a bit of a recap, and Jorge basically says, look, whoever we're dealing with has got to have some money.
Yeah.
Because these are expensive comics.
Yeah, and these clippings are not from reproductions. These are original.
The title pages out of these
original comics.
And then he has a bit of an idea. He's like, there's not many of these comics around. There's basically a list.
Yeah.
That says the last time this issue of this comic was purchased.
People know who owns these comics. Are so rare. People know who own them. It's known in the industry.
We've now got three comics.
Yeah.
Not that many people must own these three comics.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can find out. He says, I've got a guy.
I know a guy. Let's go and see our guy. This guy is Paco.
The Mask.
The Mask. He's an underground comic book dealer.
Yeah.
He used to have a store, but now he doesn't.
Yeah, the black market comics dealer.
So he says, look, Jorge says to Paco, here's a list of these comics. I need to know who owns... I think there was 4.
Yeah, I think there might have been.
Are we at 4? Yeah, because of the Human Torch.
Yeah.
Hulk, Iron Man, Human Torch, Batman.
Yeah.
I need to know who owns all 4 of these comics, like the originals. There can't be many people in Madrid or in the world who own them all. And this guy's like, well, why should I do that for you? You stole one of my prized comic books from me.
He beat him at auction.
He beat it at an auction, yeah, but he was like, you stole it from me. So he makes Jorge agree to give this guy his comic book back in exchange for the information. And coincidentally, it turns out there's only one person in the world who owns all 4 of them. And this guy lives in Madrid.
Yeah.
And his name is Victor Vid.
Oh, it was a great name.
Great name.
It's a great comic book name.
I love how all the victims are double initials. He's a software developer and philanthropist. And you need to go and see him.
Yeah.
He's your next suspect, I guess.
And then, so we cut them in the car, and Jorge opens up a bit to Val.
Yeah.
Because he's quite upbeat all the way through this movie, and now he's a bit down.
He's down on his dump.
Val's like, what's
up
the
with
matter?
you?
And Jorge says, I'm really scared that I will end up like Paco.
Yeah, I'm really worried
literally
that
living
that's
in
my
a
future.
basement.
Yeah.
In the shadows.
On my own.
And Val says, that's not going to happen to you while I'm your friend.
Yeah. Well, you've got a friend in me.
I was like,
oh, that's really nice. So after they've had that conversation, they go to investigate Victor Vid. And what they find is a killer's lair, basically. There's...
Jorge gets dropped off first, and because Val's like, we're not going to
yeah.
go straight away, but then he does.
He does.
Goes on his own.
He tricks Jorge into not going. But
Jorge calls Norma.
Yes.
Because he says, we've got a name.
Yep.
Can you look into it?
So when Valentin gets there, there's mood boards all over the wall of all the different crime scenes. There's a dead body
in a chair,
which he shoots because he makes him jump. And then all of a sudden, it starts spewing out poisonous gas.
Yeah.
Which makes him hallucinate.
We know this because a figure steps into the room wearing a plague doctor's mask.
Yes.
And says to Val, that's hallucinogenic gas.
Yeah. Because there's all like creepy crawlies and bugs crawling all over this mask, but there isn't really. And this is Professor Navarro, our supervillain. They have a bit of a fight. They're basically
Navarro's
superhero fighting.
on top.
Yep, he is. And then Norma comes in and shoots him
in the mask.
In the mask.
But the bullet kind of ricochets off.
But he's using David as a human shield at the time as well. So he gets up. He does go down, but he gets up and then he pepper sprays her in the face
and runs
away. Norma then rips into Val for going solo. She's like, "What? Why have you ditched your partner for a start?" And then Jorge turns up dressed as a superhero. Yeah. He's got like a superhero costume on. There are 2 more plans in this room that haven't come to fruition yet.
Spider-Man's origin.
Yeah.
And the X-Men
origin. And this worries Jorge because both of these origin stories contain radioactive elements.
Yeah.
And this is something we should be worried about if they're happening in the real world.
They get Victor Vid back to the morgue.
They do. They find out he's been dead for 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. He's been embalmed.
Yes.
And that's potentially how long his identity has been being used.
Yes. But what was worrying is that he was killed by polonium-210, which is a radioactive substance, which means this is now a national security issue.
Norma says, that's it, we're going to get kicked off this. As soon as that autopsy
As soon as the coroner puts
out,
the report in, they're going to come in, take over.
Yeah.
We're going to lose this case.
So the doctor says, the only thing I can do is just...
delay my report.
I can probably give you 24 hours.
Yeah.
But that's it. Then I'm going to get asked, where's this report?
Yeah. He's risking his career to do this because it's obviously a very crucial report that he gets through. Norma doesn't want him to do it. Val's like very happy that he is going to do it, but that's put a deadline on his case now. He's got to solve this case within the next 24 hours. So he goes and does the only thing he knows how to do, and that's goes to see Cosme. He needs some experience on him. But as he's leaving, he just plants a big old kiss on Norma. Yeah. Just out of nowhere. Just one bombs her with a kiss.
I think HR might have some words. But
I think you're right. I think she had some words.
Yeah.
There's been a romantic undertone to these two all the way through. They've been
flirty, like,
but also shouty at each other a lot.
Yeah, they're in that sort of kids' way of they treat each other horribly because they like each other.
Val and Cosme then try and figure out what's going to happen next, what's going on, and unfortunately, a bottom of the stream trope happens because a news report comes on the TV that a young teenage boy, has been found dead, hanging from the ceiling of a university, I think, or a college, by his wrists. The Spider-Man crime has happened,
and we just see him, don't we? We get news footage of this body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hanging from scaffolding.
So Jorge then comes in and gives his opinion on what's going on. He says it is clear that our supervillain is trying to make you into a superhero. He is wanting a battle between a hero and a villain, and you are his superhero. He's chosen you to be his superhero. But Val's like, no way, I'm not having that. Storms out of the room, and as he's leaving, tells Jorge that his dad's really ill.
Yes, he does.
Just to be spiteful, basically. Jorge, I think he must have known, or he must have had an inkling of what's going on.
Because he said earlier on, didn't he? He said earlier on in the movie to Val, "Oh, I don't know what I'd do if my father got sick." Like that was kind of almost an appeal to, you know, that he knew something was happening.
So Jorge goes to his dad. His dad's shopping in a supermarket, and he's like, "Look," tries to help him out. Takes his bag.
Jorge apologizes for being an asshole since his brother died.
Yeah,
and Cosme's lovely to him. He says, "Look, I am proud of you.
I'm as proud of you as I was of him.
Yeah, your business is great.
A successful business. Yeah, you've turned into a wonderful young man."
He says, "I don't care that you're different.
Yeah,
to each other. Not that I don't mean that Jorge is different. Yeah. That he was different to his brother.
Yeah,
he says, I'm proud of you."
And so Jorge says, "I've got something I want to show you." So he takes him into his bedroom.
Opens the porn
cupboard. And Cosmo's like, what is going on? But then he's got a secret compartment in the back of the porn cupboard where he's got his brother's police costume on a mannequin.
Gear. Yeah.
SWAT gear. Yeah, the thing he was wearing when he died. As like one of his superhero displays. It's a tribute, and it's hiding in the back of his closet. He says, "I've had this since just after he died. I managed to get hold of it. I want to display it in my store with all the rest of the superheroes." And that gives them a nice bonding moment. Yeah. It was quite an emotional scene. It was nice. And also, we're having a party at the comic book store tonight.
10th anniversary,
it's the 10th anniversary of the store. 10th anniversary? That seems like that's been going a long time.
Look, I'm not a big comics guy. There's so much to know. Most of mine is based on like Marvel movies, DC movies.
Same.
Fuck me, this is a great joke.
Yes, it is.
They've got Heimdall on the door.
Yeah, it's the doorman of the party.
I just thought it was brilliant. That's really tickled me.
It was great. And he stops Val. Val's trying to get into this party. He stops Val getting in because he isn't wearing a costume. Even if he's a cop, he's not allowed in.
And Val's like, "What? Why can't I go in?" And the guy's like, he literally explains the joke. He's like, "I'm Heimdall. Like I'm the guardian of the
the Rainbow
of Asgard. Whatever it's called."
It was funny. But then he says, "If you're the cop guy, then Jorge's left you a costume.
Yeah,
you can go. You can put that one on.
Pick that up, and you can come in."
And he does. He picks it up. He puts it on, and Jorge gives him a superhero name. Or Val gives him a superhero name. He's got a superhero name. What was the superhero name?
Apex.
Okay, it's Apex in the dub. In the subs, in the dub, it was Vertex.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for some reason, there was two different names.
How strange.
Yeah. So in the dub, he was always calling himself Vertex, but on the subs, always came up with Apex.
I also thought, because when he goes into the party, Jorge's costume is amazing.
Yes, it is.
Is Henry Jones is Sean Connery's character?
Yeah, from Indiana
Jones.
And you could barely recognise him.
It
was
looks
really
amazing.
Good. It did. You could barely recognise him. It was really funny. There was loads of good costumes in this movie. And Jorge says to Val, this is going to be the next one's the final murder. We know that. We've seen all the different scenes.
It's the X-Men.
It's the X-Men origin, and it's going to have to be a personal one to you.
Yeah.
Because he's coming after you. He wants you.
And he says,
but it won't come for you. He will come for a loved one or a
and
sidekick.
Val's like, I've not got anyone. And Jorge says, I'm worried it's me. I'm your sidekick.
Yeah.
And then Val, doing good police work, quite quickly says, the killer doesn't know you're my sidekick. Yeah. He was shot by Norma.
Yes. He thinks Norma's my sidekick.
Yeah.
She's the one in trouble. Meanwhile, Cosme's doing some research on the internet.
He's called in a couple of old favours.
At the police station. He finds some very important information and goes,
we're not quite sure what it is.
Privy to. We do see it on the screen, but we don't know what he's looking at. Then Norma runs. So two things are happening at the same time. And Norma runs up to the store. She's out of breath. She's trying to explain what's gone on. Meanwhile, we see Cosme being kidnapped by a couple of armed men in a van. And this is what Norma's trying to tell the two.
I thought this was a nice directorial thing. So all the Cosme stuff that we're seeing intercut with the Norma stuff has actually happened before. And she is now arriving at the comic book store to tell them Cosme has been abducted.
Yes. So she does. She gets it out. Everybody's panicking. Val then gets a phone call on his mobile. And whilst he's talking, it's the bad guy, Professor Navarro. Whilst he's talking, all the customers in the comic book store start passing out, collapsing, foaming at the mouth. And Professor Navarro on the phone says, "Oh, that'll be the polonium I put in the lemonade.
Yeah.
All your guys are going to start passing out."
And he then says, "That's just the start.
Yeah.
I have got enough of the stuff to poison the whole city's water supply.
Yes.
And I will do that unless you come to meet me alone.
Yeah.
And you better be dressed as a superhero."
Yeah, I'm not fighting you if you're just dressed as a cop. You need to come dressed as a superhero and you need to be on your own. So Jorge says to him, "Let's make you a badass costume."
Yeah.
And he takes him into the back room and he has his brother's costume. They're all packed up, ready to go. And he makes him this badass looking costume for Vertex / Apex.
Yeah, part SWAT, part this yellow Apex costume that he'd already put on.
Meanwhile, the businessman millionaire guy who we met at the beginning turns up in his almost Batmobile car.
Yeah.
So they were like, right, Norma says, right, we need to borrow your badass car. And Val comes out and he looks like a superhero. He's half SWAT cop, half yellow superhero.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it looks really
his cape is flowing in the wind. He looks amazing. And he gets in this car, but he doesn't drive. Norma drives him.
And it's a good joke because the millionaire businessman's turned up and he says, "Oh, is there any lemonade left?" And Jorge says, "Did you say you just download all your
because he said earlier on he downloads
stuff
all
from
his
the
curry
internet?"
books
And he was
the
like,
internet.
"Oh yeah." And Jorge says, "Yeah, there's loads of lemonade."
Yeah, there's loads of lemonade inside. Help yourself. He's completely blind to the fact that everybody's spewing up outside. Then we cut to the
Villain's
lair. Cosme's there in a wheelchair, and the place is very reminiscent of what do they call it in the X-Men?
The Cerebro.
Cerebro.
Yeah.
It looks like that inside, doesn't it? He's on a platform high up. Yeah. And the Professor Navarro is there and he's talking to Cosme, and then he pulls his mask off. And we get the reveal, the twist comes of who this bad guy is.
Yeah.
It's the coroner.
It's Dr. Brugaro.
Yes.
I have his name here.
He is the coroner. He's been in this film all the way through. I didn't get it, but I was like, there isn't anybody else in this film whether it can be.
So the document that Cosme had found was a signature by Dr. Brugaro signing Victor Vid's disability papers.
Yes.
After Vid had died. Or been murdered, basically. Yes. So yes, he'd put 2 and 2 together.
So this coroner, what was his name?
Brugaro.
Is now Professor Navarro. That's who he's become. He's the supervillain of this movie. And he says to Cosme, "Welcome to the origin story of the world's first real-life superhero.
Yeah.
I am making a superhero. This whole thing is about me helping. I'm origining a superhero. I'm not here to kill anybody. I'm going to give the world a superhero. That's what he's here to do." Meanwhile, Val ditches Norma on the side of the road. He pulls over because something's wrong with his mask or something.
Yeah.
And she gets out of the car. No, there was something under the car.
Yeah, he says, "Oh, I think I've got a flat. Can you check?"
Yeah.
And
So
then
she gets out of the car and he drives off. She calls him an idiot, and then she tells him she loves him. We cut back to Navarro and Cosme. Navarro says, "I wasn't there for Val's parents' killing."
He said, "That's the only one I didn't do."
But I did, a couple of months ago, plant that clipping in there to make it look like I did it, to lure him in. I wanted him to become that.
And he says, "I'm ready to die." He says,
I must die.
I must die. My alter ego must die for the superhero to be born."
Yes, but I must die as a mystery to create this hero. Nobody must know my real identity. And Cosme's like, "You've been an idiot. He isn't going to turn up. He's not the sort of guy that would dress as a superhero and come for a battle." But he does. You can hear him. As soon as Cosme says that, you hear him turn up. You can hear him downstairs. And Cosme says, "You've killed, kids to do this. You've killed innocent people."
Yeah.
And Navarro's like, "I haven't killed any innocent people. Everybody who I've killed has been a really bad person. Even the 16-year-old kid, he'd like raped and murdered a 6-year-old or something stupid. So he's like, all of these people deserve to die. But now it begins, I guess, is what he says.
As soon as Val gets there, Navarro shoots Cosme dead.
He does. Well, before he does that, he puts his face into a vat of acid.
Oh, sorry, I had that just after.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, you might be right either way.
It doesn't matter.
He puts his face into acid and then puts his mask back on to burn his kind of face off. And
It's
then
like
he does.
Dr. Doom's himself.
Yeah, he does, basically. And then Val bursts into the door dressed as his badass superhero. And as he bursts in, Navarro shoots Cosme.
Yeah.
Cosme sees his son turn up. He doesn't see David turn up. He's dying.
Yeah.
He's bleeding out on the floor. He doesn't see his son. He sees Javier, his son, turn up to save him. But it isn't. It's David, obviously. And then Cosme dies in David's arms. He's done. He's out. Navarro taunts him a little bit. They fight on this like raised walkway. It got all Star Wars at this point as well.
Well, it's also a bit like the first Batman movie because they're above the vats of acid.
There's a great big vat of acid underneath. Also, Navarro has loosened one of the railings because he's going to fall through. Yeah. He's not trying to win this fight. He's just making it look like it. They're fighting along these railings. Val pulls the mask off Professor Navarro, but he doesn't recognise him because of his burnt out face.
He looks like Skeletor.
He does. And then he comically throws himself over the edge of this railing, and then he's hanging on by his fingertips, begging Val to save him, basically. And Val then says, "I'm Apex or Vertex, depending on which style of a movie you watch." And he just stands up, and Navarro falls to his death.
And he melts. And again, it was brilliant.
It did.
Effect.
It was like Roger Rabbit into the juice, whatever it was. But the plan has worked perfectly. He has died. He has created this superhero, and nobody knows who he was. Cosme's dead. The only one who knew was Cosme, and he's dead. Cut away. We cut to Cosme's funeral. They're all standing. It's very much a superhero movie funeral. It's raining, and everybody's standing under black umbrellas. And Jorge's doing a voiceover, and he says, "This could be the end of the story."
Did you notice Jorge's t-shirt at the funeral?
No.
It was just a black t-shirt. It was like Darth Vader's control panel.
Oh, was it really?
Under his suit jacket,
yeah. Brilliant. He says in his voiceover, "This could be the end of the story, but that'd be too sad." So we're going to get a little bit of an epilogue, I guess. Yeah. And he says they were investigating the disappearance of the coroner because nobody knows where this guy's gone.
And they ended up at
Victor Vid's mansion, like where he lived, and they accidentally found a bat cave.
Yeah, basically.
There's a pole, fireman's pole, that takes you down under this mansion, and in there is a bat cave. And Val says, we should use this place for good. So they do. And Val becomes this superhero by night that the world needed.
But as the credits start to roll, there is an evil laugh.
Yeah, Navarro's laugh. His plan is completely succeeded. Yeah. He has completed in what he wanted to do. He created this superhero that will save Madrid. And that is the end of the movie. Apart from a short post-credit sequence at the end of the credits, where our superhero, Apex/Vortex, arrests Paco.
Yeah.
He goes and...
I don't think he arrested him. He got the comic book back
for Jorge, and I assume he took him down. And that was the end of your movie.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nick?
I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was really good.
Like, surprisingly good.
Much better than I was expecting.
I didn't... This is the first time this season where I've gone in... Obviously, there's the whole stuff about the... about the title. Yeah. I literally didn't... I knew nothing about this. Absolutely nothing. I didn't know what it was about.
Other than the synopsis I read last week, I've had
a busy week. I'd gone
out of your brain.
Totally gone out of my brain. And I just thought it was quite original. It was 7.
Yeah, it was. They even made a couple
Marvel
of 7 jokes, didn't they?
And I don't know how they've not been sued, but they haven't been. And no, they shouldn't be, because this is a homage to some of those Marvel characters.
Which is probably why they haven't been.
I really enjoyed it.
There's no Marvel likenesses in there.
No.
There's nobody looks like a superhero or anything like that.
You can say the character's
You can say
name
the character's
as much as you
names.
want, I guess.
Yeah, and guess so, in reference. The only thing Marvel in there is the title pages of these comic books that keep showing up.
I thought it was funny. I was really surprised how funny it was.
Yeah, genuinely, it was really good.
Both in the script and just some of the in jokes, visual jokes. We didn't mention as well that this is a bit meta for us.
Oh, of course, yeah.
When they are looking at the Human Torch's body, Norma has this line where she's like, "Oh, it's like something from one of those gory anime movies, like Gantz."
Yeah,
which is a movie we've done on this show. So this is the first time a bottom of the stream movie has referenced a bottom of the stream movie.
We now have a bottom of the stream connected universe.
Yeah.
This is a thing that exists in the world now.
Which so that popped me massively. And just I love Seven. It's one of my favourite movies. And they've done that with a Marvel spin on it. I just thought it is something original that is just it's recognisable because it's using all this IP from elsewhere, and the characters are. I thought Cosme was brilliant.
Yeah,
I really like Jorge.
Yeah,
I grew to like Val.
Yeah,
Norma was a great character.
Yeah, even the bad guy was great in all his little scenes as the coroner. He had some nice lines in there. And then he became this like super villain.
I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it as well. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I thought it was great.
I could have done with a bit more of it, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to see more of this universe. What happens?
Yeah, definitely.
What happens to Apex or Vortex at the end of this story?
It's a strong recommend for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is for me as well. It's a
real pleasant surprise.
It's a proper little geeky movie, but it was also quite a good whodunit. There's a good story here as well.
And the effect, we've said a couple of times,
yeah,
but the effects are brilliant.
Really good. Yeah.
Really inventive.
Yeah.
Strong.
Top
Very strong.
Top billings for me. I thought was really good. Should we put it in our stream table?
Yeah.
Easy, yeah?
Yeah, very easy. It's the best thing we've seen this season.
Absolutely. I've not got the stream table open, but from memory, I think it was Shark Lake at 3, Nessie and Me at 2, and
Office Invasion.
Office Invasion's currently number 1. This is the best movie we've seen this season by considerable margin.
I also think this movie would have won last season.
Oh, wow. Okay. Big deal.
For me.
Yeah, you might be right. It definitely would have been up there. This is going to be this is the one to beat so far this season.
Yeah.
You're going to have the movie's going to have to do well to.
It may not have won every season. In fact, I know it wouldn't have done. But I
no,
think
it wouldn't. But it would have been up there for last season.
It would have won last season for me.
It would have been a good wild card pick. This.
Yeah.
It would have been a good wild card pick for somebody.
Yeah. Really strong. Really enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad I did too.
I'd like to know what other people thought of it, please.
Yes.
Especially
same.
as I know we have in our Discord in particular, we have several big comic book fans.
We do. Nerds.
So.
There's lots of nerds in our Discord. Yeah, 100%. Let us know what you thought. Do that for every film.
Better than the last few Marvel movies, this is.
Oh, definitely.
I've not seen Deadpool. I will point that
it's
out.
Not. It's not better than Deadpool.
As a caveat.
It's not better than Deadpool.
That's fine.
It's better than some of the others. It's better than the Eternals. I'll give you that.
I've not seen that one.
Right. I guess that means we just need to pick next week's movie, yeah?
Yeah, it does.
What do you want from next week?
Comedy?
Comedy?
Yeah.
Another one?
Like a full-on comedy.
Okay. I'll spin Robin's wheel. Are you ready?
Spin it.
Robin has picked us a movie called Freak Show.
Okay.
Any ideas?
Of course I don't.
It's an Amazon Prime movie. There seems to be a bit of a discrepancy on Amazon of when it came out.
Okay.
IMDb says 2007. Amazon says 2024.
Right. Okay. We'll have to dig into that one a bit.
Yeah, we'll do some research on that. Do you want the synopsis?
Yes, please.
In this modern retelling of Todd Browning's Freaks from 1932, Freak Show tells the story of a group of criminals who choose to hide out by working security at a travelling circus. At first, they plot with an insider to steal the ticket sales, but the wily Lucy has bigger plans. She convinces the gang... Oh, it's gone on for ages. She convinces the gang to let her seduce and marry the aging circus owner. in order to secure the entire circus's fortune after he suffers an accident in inverted commas. People die all the time, Lucy says. The freaks are onto their scheme, however, and when the youngest of them is caught by the ruthless gang, they show no mercy to ensure her silence. When the circus folk find the child's remains, they swear vengeance, and no one is safe from their fury, least of all the wily Lucy.
Okay.
Modern retelling of a 1932 movie.
Bring it on.
It's made by the Asylum, Nick.
Oh, God.
That's what the Asylum started this whole thing on.
This is true.
3.3 on IMDb.
I'm excited.
I'm excited for an Amazon movie.
I am excited for that.
Cool. So go out and watch Freak Show. And in the meantime, check us out on Instagram and Letterboxd at BOTS_podcast. If you want to drop us an email, our email address is bottomofthestream@gmail.com and our website is bottomofthestream.com. On our website, you'll find every episode we've ever recorded, loads of stream tables, loads of other cool stuff. And you can even get some merch if you want to buy a Bottom of the Stream.
What movie did we just watch?
The superhero one.
Cape.
Okay, cool.
I would buy that.
You could get like a shower curtain or something.
Sure. Okay, fine.
After you've done that, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/bottomofthestream. On there for £5 every month, you will get early access to episodes. You'll get bonus episodes. You will get a wild card, which means you can pick the movie we watch. If it's the best one of the season, you will win a prize. After you've done that, head to Discord. The Discord is a wonderful group full of wonderful people. We play games. We do watch-alongs. We've got a watch-along coming up very soon. Loads of cool stuff goes on in the Discord. Come and join us. The Discord link is in the bottom of the show notes.
If you can spare a few minutes, please leave us a review and rating. Any way you can review and rate podcasts, it really helps. It helps get the word out and spread the news about our show to people who haven't yet heard of it. You can find us anywhere you find your podcast, places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, YouTube Music. Our Monday show, the Bottom of the Stream with Adam and Nick, is also available as a video.
It is. Come check out our new video every Monday morning on YouTube. They will be there, and every Thursday the movie show will be here. So yeah, do all of that. It's good. We can have a good time.
Guaranteed.
So yeah, do that. Thanks for listening. Come back soon. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.